See how this tournament, the Travelers Championship, now has bounced back from really near extinction. But let's talk about, and we got the group that's going to save the world
band
back together
yeah,
here.
right.
Let's talk about the state of sports overall in the state.
Well, I moved here 26 years ago and grew up in Indiana. And back in the day, it was all about Indiana sports and, you know, the basketball. And you move here now, and whether it's, you know, Yale or it's UConn or Central, you can see the sports have just grown over the 26 years that I've been here. And now it's Indiana what?
Well, especially for you. You're no longer an Indiana person.
Exactly.
Well, and Eric and I both were born and raised here in the state. And I remember going to Nighthawks games. That Coliseum was filled, packed with the Nighthawks. That went away. The Ravens came in. They left. I think what's key to the Travelers' success and some sports teams like the Rockettes. You look at the Rockettes in 1999, 98. They were drawing nobody. Last in the league in attendance. Now they're near the top. And I think a lot of it has to do with entertainment within the entertainment. People don't go just to baseball games to see baseball anymore. You're entertained all the way around. Same thing at the golf the last few years, too.
And I think it's going to be interesting in August once tennis starts. Like, people keep talking about, okay, the economy's slowly coming around. Well, I think we're going to see it this week at Travelers with a boost in attendance. But when tennis comes in August, are they going to feel a little bit of that as well? I mean, a lot of that depends on the field.
Yeah.
But still, you kind of feel like sports are coming around and things are going well in this state as far as how you support your team.
And I think UConn plays such a big role in that because let's face it, you have Connecticut, a small state in between New York and Boston, and for a lot of people, it's just a rest stop for them. And
Well, I don't know if I'm going to go, but you're
no,
right.
I mean,
you're
for
right.
a lot
They
of people,
drive, they
it's
drive
been
right
considered
through,
that.
yeah.
And Yukon used to be a territory in Canada, and that's it.
Why?
The Yukon, exactly. But now when you think of Yukon, the first thing you think about is great basketball, great sports. And I think that has kind of, not that the success that Quinnipiac and Yale hockey had or any of the other colleges had are directly as a result of what UConn has done, but we've seen the growth of those sports. However, at the professional level, let's face it, it has struggled. The Nighthawks left.
The Whalers.
The Beast of New Haven. The Whalers. And
WNBA's thriving though.
the
here in
WN.
state.
Oh, good point. WNBA does one of the
7,000 people a game.
So for a small state, we're doing pretty well.
We're doing okay, but there's times like I remember when Richard Hamilton was a freshman at UConn, and UConn was a big deal. You know, we were all rallying around it, men and women. But I remember they had an NIT game, a postseason game there, and they couldn't even sell the place out. Sometimes I feel like the state and the fans are a little bit fair weather, like a lot of places. You know, everyone loves a winner.
We
of
just
course.
get used to winning, I guess.
Let's discuss this more over on SportsEdge.com because we've run out of time here on television. This is the time when we do our fitness segment. And this week, because we're focusing on the golf, instead of giving you a tip, we're going to show you how the golfers stay in shape week after week, tournament after tournament. And so now here over on SportsEdge.com, we can continue the conversation. And I think anywhere you go, people are going to be frontrunners. People are going to want to follow a winner. And if a team's not winning, they're not going to get the same kind of support. But look at the UConn men's basketball team this last year. Everyone knew they weren't going to be able to go to the tournament. They still did okay attendance-wise.
Yeah, and you know, Kevin Ollie did a great job there. And for me, covering them for many years, and I think one of the great moments was the championship season in '99, their first title. But this was a great season because there's something about this team that made you want to root for them, made you want to cheer for them, made you pull for them because they got some fresh blood in there, and Kevin Ollie really, rejuvenated them.
And look at the money that's being poured into this state. You know, through UConn and through all these teams, Quinnipiac and Yale, and all these teams winning. You know, we're a small state of 3 million people, but we are known now for our sports. And as I reiterated, coming from Indiana, it was a big deal about sports. And this is really interesting what is happening here. And I think as a small state, we embrace all of them, whether you're rooting for, UConn or whether it's Quinnipiac or whether it's Yale. There's a pride now that we have that, hey, how do you like us now?
And maybe it's because we're in the business of covering events, but I'm not surprised, but pleasantly surprised with how much attendance is in the high school sports levels. Yeah. I mean, growing up here in the state, John and I both went through it. I don't recall seeing as many people at high school games back then as I do now. I mean, the football championship games, and they're not going to be at Rensselaer anymore, which is a great idea, Central, but I think the high school sports are getting some great attendance, which they never used to get.
Well, and this speaks of Connecticut, because Connecticut is very family-driven, right? So a lot of families here, and so you're going to support your kids at the high school level with all the sports. It's interesting because if you look at, let's say, a city like Dallas, where the Cowboys are so popular out there, I don't remember where I was reading about it, but it was like for so long, all Dallas had to be, as its kind of watershed moment was the assassination of Kennedy. And you thought of Dallas and you thought of the grassy knoll, and then with the emergence of the Cowboys, it became, that's what you thought about.
Well, it's rallying around home teams.
And so it
Yeah.
gives you this kind of civic pride. It gives you this feeling of that we have something very successful in our state. And, and Connecticut doesn't necessarily have that main metropolitan area as much as it is the whole state.
Short of us not getting the New England Patriots under the Rowland administration, I think we're doing really well.
Yeah.
I agree.
Never thought that was going to happen anyway.
I thought it was going to
I know.
happen.
Well,
Oh my
they
gosh,
listen,
I
they
thought it
popped
was
the
gonna happen.
champagne. Remember that?
He used
Oh,
us.
that
That's a
Yeah.
whole different segment.
We can
Let's
get
do
into
it next
that
week.
and how we feel about Roland. And,
I hope we
or
rally around
Kraft,
tennis.
rather.
I do hope we rally around tennis because right now tennis needs help in this state. To keep that coming back after this summer.
And I'll just say this, the problem with tennis, because we're starting to go long here, but the problem with tennis, women's tennis, is that outside of Serena Williams and maybe Maria Sharapova, you don't have huge stars. So
stars.
even though they're going to have a great field over at the New Haven Open this year, it's not going to be the kind of names that attract the non-hardcore tennis fan, even though they've turned that into an absolute event.
Mm-hmm.
It's an event every year, regardless of whether you like tennis. But if Serena Williams were to come, boy, that everyone would go because they'd
Sure.
want to see her. She's a big star.
You'll be there.
I'll be there. You'll be there.
Yeah,
Thanks, Noah.
Eric will
You'll
be
be
there.
there. All right. Well, thank you for being here with us on SportsEdge.com. Have a good night.